Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour, your source for all hard rock, heavy metal, new metal, alternative, punk, horror punk, hardcore, rock, and all local bands, with your host, John the Bod, aka the Bodfather.
Welcome back to BODS Mayhem Hour. We are in the media tent at Rock on the Range, and I have Justin from Anti-Flag with us today. How you doing, man?
Doing great. Good to be with you.
Let's talk a little bit about Rock on the Range.
Yeah.
You guys played this festival before?
We played it 2 years ago. Yeah, we played the side stage 2 years ago, and it was really cool.
Yeah.
Or played the second stage 2 years ago, yeah.
So what's it like playing in front of tens of thousands of people?
You know, it's one of those things where, I don't know, I think like a lot of people, when they decide that they want to start a band, as a kid, you kind of have that dream or like that fantasy of like what it would be like to play in front of tens of thousands of people. And it's a pretty amazing moment when you walk out on a stage in front of 20, 30,000 people and you realize that you've achieved kind of that dream that you had as a kid, you know? And it's interesting because we come out of punk rock, and you know, we as teenagers we started like playing in people's basements, and you know, like kind of in punk, like that's what you did, you know, like. And I think as a band we would have been totally satisfied with doing that, and in a lot of ways to play a small club show for like 200 people, it's packed out and it's like really intense and like really intimate. That's kind of one of my favorite things to do to this day still. But there is a certain gratification that you get knowing that you've been able to somehow find a way in life where you get to walk out onto a stage in front of thousands of people. It's sort of a dream realized, and it's something that ends up feeling really special.
Now, for people who haven't seen you guys play live, what could they expect from one of your shows?
Well, you know, I think the idea with an Anti-Flag show is to make it this unifying experience, you know, to break down barriers. So, you know, we, regardless of whether you're straight or gay or male or female or the color of your skin or the nationality, the nation that you are born into, we want to destroy those barriers, you know, and we want to bring people together, and we want everybody at the show to have an equal opportunity to have a good time. So it's about respecting one another and realizing that we're all human beings and having a good time with one another, and that's the kind of atmosphere that we try to foster at our show.
You guys have a lot of material to pick from, so what goes into choosing what set list you play for shows like this today?
Well, I mean, you know, like with a set that's only 30 minutes, yeah, and we have a lot of records, it's a really hard choice, like what songs are gonna play. And you know, every time we come off stage somebody's like, oh man, you didn't play such and such a song, you know. But ultimately, like, I think that we try to craft a set that we feel like kind of covers all facets of the band and kind of talks about a lot of different topics that are important to us as a band. And you know, if you're playing an hour set with like an encore or whatever, you can do a lot of different things, and you can convey a lot of different messages. When you have a 30-minute set and you're playing in front of people maybe who've never seen you before, never heard your band before, you're kind of craft a different set because you're trying to put forward in a very short amount of time, trying to give people kind of a sample of what you're about. And the fact that Anti-Flag is a band that stands against racism, sexism, homophobia, you know, bigotry, it's important for us to craft a set where we're able to put that message forward.
There's some great bands playing tonight. Anybody you've seen today or excited to see later on?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really cool bands. I always thought that Tool was a really cool band, and you know, to see Tool, had an opportunity to see them a couple times now, and you know, that they're kind of one of those legendary bands now, and it's always exciting to look back on life and realize like, oh, I got to see that band.
And you guys had a new album come out last year called American Fall.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, for me, the number one, you know, you have Donald Trump come into office, right? And I mean, and he says these openly sexist things. He says openly racist things. A lot of bigotry coming from him, you know. I mean, our guitar player is married to a woman from a Muslim family. I have African Americans in my family. You know, we tour all over the world. We spend a lot of time in the U.S. A lot of really close friends from Mexico, or friends who have family that are directly descendant, like first generation from Mexican Americans. So when Trump started to run, I started hearing from these people that all of a sudden, like, the level of kind of bigotry and kind of racism, or just the issues of people being bigoted towards them, spiked dramatically. And it was really important to me to write a record where we conveyed to people who are in, you know, people of color, Mexicans, Muslims, refugees, women, to let those people know that they're not alone, and that there are other people out there who are willing to stand alongside of them and fight alongside of them and defend them. So that was a really important message for me to put forward on this record. And, you know, I think that a lot of people feel like, well, Trump is somebody who's not of the status quo. He's from the outside. And, you know, they looked at Hillary Clinton and they said, oh, she is of the status quo. She's on the inside. I look at them both and I just say they're both the status quo. They're both on the inside. Donald Trump is a billionaire. I mean, you're not a billionaire and not on the inside. And so, you know, I think that for me it was important to point out to people where I think that they're kind of getting conned, you know. And he says a lot of things that aren't true, and he says a lot of things that people want to hear. And I wanted on this record to talk about the idea that he's a con man, and I think it's time for people to open their eyes to that. He's looking out for the elite rich of this country, and he's looking out for himself. That's my feeling. That is the kind of message that we try to put forward on the record. Musically, you know, I think that the record covers sort of the 20 plus years of Anti-Flag, where, you know, there's hints back to our early days, and I think that there's also songs that musically give us a chance to breathe and try some new things. So it was a special record for us, and I'm really proud of it.
And of course, you mentioned Donald Trump and the current administration. I guess that doesn't hurt the songwriting process as you're writing new material. You know, I know there's lots of music coming out around this time that goes against that. And you know, talk a little bit about that. Do you have new material that you want to write all the time with this new administration?
Well, I'll tell you what. I thought Hillary Clinton was going to be elected, and I was actually writing songs about Hillary Clinton, and where I felt like she was failing the American people. So it's not like I was a huge Hillary supporter, but I look at Donald Trump and I see the vitriol that's coming from him, the hatred, the walls that he literally is talking about building walls, when I believe in tearing borders down. I believe in tearing walls down. And you know, when he came into office, the very first thing he did, he went to Saudi Arabia. He made one of the biggest arms deals in U.S. history, and he made he basically made a deal that the oil and gas industry wanted. So, oil and weapons. And to me, that's about as mainstream status quo as it gets. You know, Anti-Flag is an anti-war band. I mean, I have friends and family in the military, but I can't encourage anyone to go into the military, because I see the military over and over again as an instrument that's used by the elite to make the elite richer, and for no other reason. And I think you look back at the Iraq War, it's just such a classic example of that. I mean, what the hell did we get out of that? Like, as an average American, what did you get out of the Iraq War? Nothing. I mean, but we got a bunch of soldiers shot up, we got a bunch of Iraqis killed, and, you know, we got a bunch of corporations, U.S. corporations, that got super rich off of that war. And that was the goal of the war. They were successful. And I see Trump just forwarding that same kind of principle and upholding that same status quo. So yeah, he definitely gives me a lot of fodder to write about. I'd rather be writing about like puppies and partying, you know, so I could do without him, trust me.
Now, you guys are known for supporting different political action groups. Talk a little bit about why you do this, and maybe give us some current groups you're currently supporting.
Well, yeah, I mean, the number one group that I always have is the Amnesty International, because the Amnesty International support political prisoners. So, I mean, if you're locked up because of the political thoughts in your head or the political statements you're making, Amnesty International are going to come to your aid and try to help you. And, you know, so Amnesty International is an organization that we work with a lot. We work with Greenpeace because global warming is real. There are whole species that are being wiped out every minute around this world. It's important to protect those species. It's important to protect the planet. So definitely work with Greenpeace. We do a lot of work with Sea Shepherd. I mean, the whaling population, you know, the whale population in this world is on the verge of extinction, and yet there's still countries like Japan that allow whaling. That's insane. So Sea Shepherd, they're badass. They get out there. They directly confront the whaling fleets. So they're an organization that we've done a lot of work with. So those are three just off the top of my head that I really believe in and really support. You know, I think if you want to be an activist, you're wondering like, what can I do personally to make the world a better place? You can become a vegetarian. You can become a vegan, because simply by becoming a vegetarian, you reduce your carbon footprint by almost half. So that means that you're contributing to helping the world to be a more sustainable place. And it also lends into this idea of having empathy towards another living creature by not killing something for food consumption. So, you know, people ask us all the time, how can I get involved? You know, I always say, personally, you can be a vegetarian, you can become a member of Amnesty International. Those are two simple things that you can do that don't require a ton of effort, but they actually make a huge impact on the planet. And you know, everybody can make an impact personally, and those are two simple ways to do it.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Now, I guess the latest trend in music now is bands want to play entire albums for maybe anniversaries, things like that.
Yeah.
Something you all have ever considered?
Yeah, we've done it. We played Die for the Government. We played The Terror State for Blood and Empire, and you know, I think it is really fun. It's fun as a band because Die for the Government was our first record, and to go back and look at those songs, I mean, some of those songs we'd never played live, you know, and then wow, we're like learning them and playing them. It's like, oh, this is really cool. And it's also, I think, exciting, you know, for me as a fan of a band. If you find a band, like when they're on a certain record, say you find that record, like for me, for example, like if I got to go see Black Flag perform Damaged, I would be like, holy shit, this is the greatest thing that ever happened, because that was the record of that band that I found. So I think as a fan, it's really fun to, you know, go see a band perform that record that you found that got you into that band. So, you know, as a band member and as a fan of music, I get it, I understand it from both sides, and so I think it's a lot of fun, really.
Do you have any crazy stories from the road, or maybe some kind of a crazy fan interaction you've had recently we'll talk about?
Well, I mean, you know, you always have crazy stories on the road. I mean, like, our life is insane. And, I mean, even just like last night, we played in Ithaca, New York. We drove down here in a van overnight to play this show. And just, you know, my day was sleeping 3 hours in a van, literally getting here, having 10 minutes to catch my breath, get out of the van, stretch my legs, walk onto an acoustic song, play 3 songs, or excuse me, walk onto an acoustic stage, play 3 songs. Then I had an hour and a half and I had to go out and play on the rock show, you know? So just our daily lives are crazy, but that's what I like about this. That's why I do it. Like, it's amazing that we were able to make that drive. I'm on like no sleep to do 2 sets, like, and that we pulled it off. Like, when you get to the end of that, and I'm sitting here talking to you, and I'm thinking about it, I'm like, fuck yeah, man. Like, that's why we do this. Like, I don't want to do that every day. but when we do it, it's something that if you looked at it on paper and if you are a normal rational person, you would be like, that's a terrible idea and it's impossible, but we just did it. So that's what makes this cool.
Yeah. Okay, I know you've got places to go, so I won't keep you much longer. Where can fans find some information about the band, the website?
Well, yeah, I mean, you can check out our social media, Anti-Flag on Facebook and on Instagram and Twitter, and it's like, to me, I don't see us as having fans as much as I see us as having a community that surrounds the band, and I mean, what I love about this band is we go to shows, in every town. Like even today, I looked at the front row and I knew people in that front row. Like we have people who've been a part of the band now for so many years, and that's the best part about it. It's building the community around the band, people, like-minded people, and people who just give a fuck about other people. I mean, there's so much fucking ugliness in this world, and I think that when you can build something around the premise that we should actually give a fuck about each other and try to make the world a little bit better today than it was yesterday, that's really special to me, and it's hard to find that. So the fact that the band has that around it, that's why I'm still doing this after all these years. Yeah, so that's really, and I feel really, honored and special to be able to do that.
Yeah. One last question. I've asked all the bands this weekend that I've interviewed this question.
Cool, yeah.
The latest internet craze is Laurel or Yanni. Do you know about this?
I don't. I heard somebody talking about it, but I don't. Is it like you look at the word and you see it one way or the other?
It's an audio clip, and
okay,
it's an audio clip of Laurel, but some people have heard Yanni.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the debate going on. I've asked all the bands. I know on Friday, Hawthorne Odds used it as their stage intro, which I thought was really cool.
No shit,
so,
that's cool.
Yeah.
I hope that I hear Yanni only because of the performer Yanni. Yanni will always hold a special place in my heart. Not because I know any of his music, but just because he's pretty ridiculous, I think. Yeah.
All right, well, that's all we got. We appreciate you coming out.
Wicked. Great to meet you. Nice to talk to you, man.